Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
You've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
Welcome back to today's episode of Clicks and Bricks. Today we're talking with Jenny Woldt from Splashbox Marketing. She is going to talk to us today about ADA compliance with our marketing needs. It's very, very important stuff. And if you're doing it wrong, you and your company can be in a lot of trouble. How are you doing today, Jenny?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Splashbox.com sounds like a whole lot of fun, helping companies be ADA compliant and make sure that they navigate those waters. Before we jump into what Splashbox does today, can you tell us a little bit about you and what it is that makes you an entrepreneur?
Well, 2006, I found the need to go find a new career and decided that I would utilize my degree in advertising and just wanting to be able to still be with my kids. So I went out and I got my first big client, which was a health plan, and just started working from home. Then when I finally let go a little bit and could realize I needed to hire more people, we started, exponentially growing every year. And now we have a team of about 15 people, and we are located mainly in Tennessee is where our corporate office is. And then we have satellite offices in Nevada and in Florida. But for me, it was just a necessity drive to find, a niche for myself that allowed me to continue being a mom to three and also grow a business.
Absolutely. I heard you say the word niche, and you moved in 2006 from, was that a marketing, like a traditional marketing job, but what kind of company were you doing? What were you doing before you decided to go off onto this journey of starting your marketing firm?
I was right before that, I was a stay-at-home mom, but previous to that, I had been the art director of a psychiatric publication.
Okay.
And I'd also worked in ad agencies. And although great experiences, not real conducive to family life. With the magazine, I was traveling 2 weeks out of every year because 2 weeks out of every month, I was traveling to interview and talk to doctors and things like that. So
Right.
needed something, all the niches of my life.
And I guess 2006 is before Zoom is really, really big and popular. So you literally had to hop on planes and go sit face to face for these interviews. So
Right.
I guess the pandemic did something for us. We got our technology to a place where we can connect with people globally better, or I guess we normalized it through COVID, right? We've had this
Right.
technology for a long time, but the masses weren't using it. So I think that's a really special thing that we get to do now.
Agree.
I make the assumption, since you're working at a psychiatric publication that's medical and has a lot of HIPAA and rules wrapped around that, is that why you chose to go down this ADA compliancy for your marketing, or was that kind of something that happened over time?
We are also a creative ad agency, and we were the agency of record for a large health plan in California, and they were fined for not meeting the ADA regulations. And so they came to me and they said, "Hey, Jenny, what is 508? Go find out what it is. Find us some vendors, get us some pricing." So I did. And, I had no clue what it was, and came back, gave them all the information, and had become very well versed in it during my research. And they came back and said, "We decided we want you to do this." And I was like, okay, I can look at that. Yeah, sure. And I went and got certified in the software that's recommended. And we just kind of grew from there. So I brought on a partner who oversaw that side of the business and really deep dove into it and started growing it.
Absolutely. And I've been, I'm somewhat familiar with ADA laws because I have brick and mortar buildings, and I know that I have to have restrooms and I have to have easements or access and stuff like that. And I've built hundreds of websites. I've had very few of them have a requirement of ADA compliance, right? I think most people think I'm going to build a website. What needs to be ADA compliant? What are some of the things that who are some of the people that I'm missing out on or not really servicing if my site's not ADA compliant? Because people in wheelchairs, I think when we think of ADA compliance, we think of wheelchairs and stuff like that, access to facilities, but this is access to information. So can you tell us a little bit about the audience that a website owner is missing if they're not ADA compliant, because I think that's what entrepreneurs are a little risk adverse, right? So the fact that they might get sued, we all know that, and that's part of the game. We try to do the best, but who are we missing if we're not ADA compliant on our websites?
Well, you're missing, access to about 25 million hard of sight individuals in the United States. So when your website's not compliant, their screen readers and their refreshable braille keyboards are not going to be able to pick up the information that's on your site. So, I mean, just imagine how frustrating that would be if you're trying to read a document on someone's website and you can't access it. You can't get the information that this person's trying to deliver to you. You're going to go to the next guy. So, there is that. As the people that are going to be targeted the most with the lawsuits are the ones that are having anything to do with the government. So like your health plans, all of your government agencies, like we are real heavy with the national parks, we remediate all their documents. But so imagine with the national parks, you're missing out on a huge number of people that are going to learn about the parks if your stuff is not compliant.
Okay, I understand that. Now, as a business owner, am I obligated? Is the ADA requirement for anybody that has a website on the public internet, or is there some kind of guideline that lets me know, oh, I need to be ADA compliant on my website, or I could be in trouble? Like, where is that line? Because I'm assuming that if the mother-in-law with her blog doesn't need to think about that, right? This is a friends and family kind of environment that they're creating for themselves. Where's that line at?
Well, the line is if you have any kind of interaction with U.S. government, if you've got contracts, if you're a U.S. government contractor, if you're receiving any kind of funding from the government, if you've got an SBA loan as a small business administrative loan, you are required to meet these requirements. A lot of companies think, well, I'm too small, no one's going to notice me. 85% of the lawsuits were companies that are under 50 million. So yes, they are going after the big guys, but they're also going after the little guys because you're small hanging fruit. But then there is anybody can sue for anything.
Right.
So my caution would be if someone comes to you and says, hey, I really like XYZ on your website, can you send me an accessible PDF of that information? Figure out how to do it, because they can sue you, even though maybe that doesn't, fall within the letter of the law. They can
Absolutely. I deal with a condo association, or not a condo. It's kind of like an Airbnb thing. It's not Airbnb by far, but it's somebody that rents out their condos, and they just got a phone call one day and said, "Hey, can I have pets in your condo?" And they said no, and they said, "What if my kids got some kind of thing?" They didn't call it a service animal, unfortunately. And they said, "No, there's no pets allowed." But there was a service animal, and that customer of ours got sued over that. And it was, a big deal. And we had to figure out how the language was going to be. And I have a handicapped son, and we have a service animal too. So I understand the other side of that coin. But it's dangerous for business owners to do these kind of things, or to be in business and not know this specific information. The SBA loan is huge. I think there's a lot of small businesses in the country that have an SBA loan and their website is not ADA compliant. Right. And they don't have a way to get that done. So that's really, that's a big point that you made. If you have an SBA loan, you better get your site ADA compliant.
Right.
Now, I have more experience in personal and stuff like ADA compliance for bathrooms and things like that. And I know that my average restroom with just, one person restroom costs about $25,000 to upgrade it to ADA compliance. Is that the kind of money I'm looking at for my website, or is this an affordable thing? Like, if we're talking about the small guys, if I hear make my website ADA compliant, I scratch my head. I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to find a web developer, and like that seems really, really challenging. What's this look like for the average website? And I'm not talking about, the Amazons of the world. I'm talking about the average electrical firm with 10 to 15 web pages and some downloadable marketing material.
Oh, I would say that that's probably then in your $2,500 to $5,000 range.
Okay.
And So like what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll do a review of your website. We'll tell you how many documents you've got on there that need to be remediated, and we'll tell you the extent of the issues with your HTML. And then we tell you how to fix it. So we don't actually need access to your website. We will remediate the documents, but as far as the HTML goes, we work with your IT people. So if you've got somebody, so now they're learning, they're being trained.
Right.
And so in the future, when they add more pages to your site, they can start there. And so it's not going to, in the end, be costing you anymore. They're just going to know best practices.
So you're going to educate their team on the best practices so that now they can execute this stuff. So it's not something they have to keep going to the till every time they make a new creative. You're training their team on how to do it properly.
Right. And then with most of the clients that we work with, once a year, we'll go in and we'll do a whole review of their website again, just to make sure they are still compliant, bring up any issues that maybe they missed. But that's up to their personal choice if they want us to do that. And then we will give them a certificate that their website is compliant. As of this date, it's fully compliant. And one thing that in talking with people at HHS and CMS is as long as you've got a plan in place, they're pretty good about working with you.
Okay. Kind of like HIPAA.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as you're working a plan, so it doesn't have to be something you bite off all at one time. It can be done in chunks. And then again, like I said, if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I need this accessible, jump on it.
Right.
Make that your number one priority and get it done.
Absolutely. I love it. It's needed as we're going, more and more things are going to be online. Web 2.0 is pretty much a mess. Web 3.0, I don't think even has scratched their head, thought about ADA compliance yet. Right. So, in some ways, so it's all going to be a very, very big challenge long term. Is it just the visually impaired that we need to think about for ADA, or are there other concerns like hearing loss and things like that?
Oh, absolutely. That would be 504. That's the number of that law.
Okay.
So you've got 508, which is for the hard of sight, and the 504 for hard of hearing. So that is your closed captioning and doing, video. So we also do video though for hard of sight, giving it's in a little extra audio that's added to a video that gives a description of what's going on in the screen. So just like you've got the words running along the screen, now we are adding another element that's describing what's happening there. So like you and I sitting here, it would say, a gentleman in a blue suit and glasses, and
right.
To give that hard of sight person that same experience.
Well, that's very interesting. I like that a lot. It's as a person that will probably be very hard of seeing at some point in my life, I'm already pretty challenged. So we have all these problems and you can help companies fix them. Is there a police department that's out in the world like looking for these sites, or is this kind of happenstance that you can get in trouble if somebody reaches out and they say, hey, I'm looking for this in Braille, or I'm looking for this for hard of sight, comply to them as soon as you can? Like realistically, how fast do I need to be on this if I'm a business owner? Can I wait until something happens and execute, or do I really need to get in front of the ball here?
Well, first of all, as far as the police go, they're called lawyers. And if you're on the East Coast or the West Coast, I would highly recommend you start getting ready, because they actually we've found they're out there finding hard of sight individuals that they can file lawsuits for.
Yep.
So yes, they are out there, they are looking. If you have a governing body over your company, if you're a health plan, for instance, and you're regulated by HHS or CMS, then yes, they are doing reviews of your websites and they are looking. So those are your police. As far as the sense of urgency, anytime somebody decides they're going to sue you, you're incurring costs, right? You've got legal fees. So that's where I would just caution and say, I would, put together a plan as soon as you can, so you can at least show, hey, I've got a plan going and I'm able to get this document to that person. But, lots of companies will wait until they do get that lawsuit, until somebody says, hey,
yes,
you're in trouble.
And I think if the lawsuit comes your way and you have a plan in place that you're currently executing or that you're working on, that works in your favor in a tremendous way, right?
Well, and especially your liability insurance is going to love you a whole lot more too when you can provide that documentation.
Absolutely. So
you get something to work with.
Yes, it is a lot. It's a lot to think about. It's a lot of people, right? So you can forget about the lawsuits and all that other stuff the potential revenue that you would gain and the potential heart of site. I mean, in the marketing world, we call them eyeballs, right? But these are still eyeballs that you could be capturing and you're not. And it's, how many people did you say it was?
25 million.
25 million in the US. A small percentage of that market is pretty big.
Yeah. Well, you consider, I believe heart of sight is considered a lens that's 4.0, negative 4.0 for vision. That's a whole lot of people that are falling in that. And, so really, if you've got itty bitty tiny type on your website or terrible color contrast, and you just are making it difficult for somebody to navigate your site, then it's, they're not going to be there long. But on the flip side is that when your site is ADA compliant, your SEO is tremendous. You're going to get more traffic to your site because you have all these words going on. You've got alternate text on your photos that you don't physically see, but it exists there when a reader goes over it. So now you've increased your SEO with Google and all the search engines exponentially, which is going to bring you more business.
Absolutely. Those alt tags on your photos, just basic SEO is huge, right? You can embed a whole lot of stuff in those photos that the user can hear or see whenever they go over it. That's really, really special. And I thank you for doing that for the Heart of Sight. I will be in that boat, and I'm probably actually in that boat right now if I don't have my glasses on. So I've got one last question about the ADA compliance and the need to do it. Do I have to take my original website and make it ADA compliant because I'm just in love with the artwork that I've created and I don't want to change it, and I think it's beautiful the way that it is, and I don't want to change it for my own needs? Can I have just a button at the top that says ADA compliant version of my website?
It would have to direct. That's a very good question. I would need to put that to my ADA expert. But as long as that button is very clear and you are taking them to a site that's going to give them the same experience or similar experience to what you were on your original site, then I would tentatively say, yeah, you might be able to get away with that.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that, so I apologize.
I just know creative people, right? They like their art and they have to have that font for that reason, for some reason, and they don't want to, and we want to make, in a world where we're trying to make everybody happy, right? Is the rights of the person that is hard of seeing more important than the rights of the creator of their artwork? And in some cases, this is artwork that we're creating, and it's not always meant for everybody. Right? It's meant for a specific set of people. And I think that's still really important to have in our world, but there has to be a version of it that's compatible for the people that maybe not have the same perception of reality as everybody else.
Right. Well, in those situations that would be where alternate text would just really come into play, where it's not affecting the look of your site, but it's just providing that little extra detail and information.
Right.
And then that would keep you in line.
Awesome. I love it, Jenny. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. Before we go, I think you have a giveaway for anybody that's watching the show. You're going to do some, can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you're offering if anybody's watching the show today, and how would they find that offer and take advantage of it?
Sure. So if you go ahead and go to our website, splashbox.com, and fill out the form to send us a document up to 25, 35 pages, you can put in the notes that you saw us here on your show and send it over to us. We will remediate that document for you free of charge. And then that'll give you a chance to kind of see what the process looks like, start you down the path of how you get compliant. And then you can let us know if you want us to provide any additional information about what we could do to help you. But we are more than welcome. You can get your feet wet in the process.
Fantastic. And my advice would be, if you've got what we call an asset magnet inside the marketing world, a downloadable form that somebody can download, and you're getting their email address for them, I think that would be a great case scenario to bring over to Jenny's team as that first remediation. And what is remediation? What does that mean? What are you doing? Are you just reading it and kind of giving them advice, or are you giving them the specific details of what they need to do to move forward?
Well, so if we're remediating a document, so we remediate PDF, Word, Excel, PowerPoint documents. So you're sending us that document. We're going behind the scenes and we're going to make sure that document reads correctly. So imagine a 3-column newspaper, right? And so a reader is going to read across those 3 lines. They're going to go from across one top of one column to the other, and it's not going to make any sense. So we go in and we tell it, this is how you need to read this. And then we provide the alternate text to those pictures. We add in bookmarks. We also remediate in all languages. So we set the language for the document and that kind of thing. So,
Okay.
but if we're doing a review of HTML, we will provide you with a spreadsheet that says, here's the issue on your website and here's how you fix it.
Wonderful. I love it. And they go to splashbox.com, fill out the form there, free remediation. And that's the information on how to get those documents up to speed to be ADA. What is the number?
508.
508, ADA 508 compliant, which is for hard of sight.
Correct.
Wonderful. I love it. Jenny, I've got these pod deck questions here. Do you mind if I ask you a random question?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's see what we get. Oh. What technology do you wish existed?
Oh, well, for 508, we end up using 4 to 5 different programs at times to remediate a client's documents just because of different nuances. So if I could create technology that put the best of all of those different programs into one program, that is what I would create.
Wonderful.
So that's a life goal right there.
And I think you're busy on that project already.
I'm
From
just
our brief
starting.
conversation before the show, I think you're well on that way.
Yes. So that's what we're hoping for.
And if somebody's out there watching the show, who is the perfect customer for you? Obviously, if you got an SBA loan, if you're doing business with the government of any kind, anybody else, any others like small business, that really should consider going down this path?
I think, for us, it's, health plans and also just anybody who's really, heavy with their government contract, colleges. If you have, what's funny is that when we first started working in Tennessee School for the Blind, their materials were not remediated for their students. And so we now work with them and we do that for them for free because we was so surprised.
Yeah.
So, but if you're in education, even if you are, a private elementary school, anything like that, and especially with all the Zoom calls we're doing these days and kids being online, having your documents remediated is important too.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Jenny, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. Is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with before we go?
Well, just get started. That's all I can say is, start making the moves and get started to get compliant. It really will benefit your company in the end.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time today, Jenny.
Thank you.
You have a great day. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
That's it for today's show, folks. Get to work.